Hey YouTube fam, what's up? Welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for the love on my last video, me announcing my little relationship. It took long enough. I've been on the apps for 4 years now. 4 long years. I delete them and download them and delete them and download them again because the apps suck. Like, let's face it, we all have this sentiment. Me and my girlfriends that were single and on the apps, we complained, and I was amongst them, okay? But I do want to say that no matter how bad the apps were sucking, and no matter how much I complained to my friends, in the back of my mind, I knew for me that the dating apps were really like the only thing that was working. I'm a homebody. If you've been watching my channel long enough, you know this. I'm very introverted. I'm filming, making YouTube videos, or I'm sitting down editing other people's videos because I'm a video editor, or I'm at the gym. I never really go out, and I've never been someone who's just been super social. So I knew that the dating apps was the only way at this point in my life that I was going to be meeting people. And so no matter how much I complained and moaned to my homegirls, I knew that I needed to figure out how to make them work for me. And that's what this whole video is about. How I made the apps work for me, how I made them less detestable, and how I stuck on them long enough to go on a good number of dates. Maybe this doesn't sound like a lot to you, but I've been on like 40 plus dates, and that was a lot for me. And as someone who was single for a really long time and very comfortable in her singleness, I knew I wasn't trying to settle for anything less than what I was looking for. And yeah, I'm happy to say I think I found it. So let's jump straight into this video. The apps is a numbers game. They are a numbers game, okay? Everybody and their mama is on the apps. And one of my favorite podcasts that talks about dating and online dating specifically, I love the analogy that she used. She said, you need to look at the dating apps as a popular bar in town. You go to the bar simply to connect and meet with people, and it's full of all kinds of people who are there for all kinds of purposes. Some people are there looking for friendships, people are there looking for a good time, a one-night stand. Some people are there because they're open to love and they're open to relationships, but you show up to the bar just to show up and to connect. When you go on a night out with your friends and it's not a really good night, no one really showed up, you didn't meet anybody that day, do you boycott the bar and never go back? No. You keep showing up, you keep going, because you know it's just a vehicle to connect you with people. And it's the same thing for dating apps. When I was on the dating apps, I learned early on to swipe and to swipe generously. I learned that there's going to be all kinds of people, and it's my job to figure out their true intentions and their motives. I learned that the apps weren't there to help me find love. They were only there to connect me with people I would have never come across. And they did a really good job of doing that. So when I would swipe on the apps, and yes, I would swipe, okay? I mean, I guess it really depends on my mood. I definitely had times where I just wasn't in the mood to play offense and swipe, so I would just play defense. I would look through my list of likes. I would talk to people who only match with me. Sometimes, if that's what I felt like, then that's what I did. But more often than not, I did swipe on the apps. I did initiate conversations. And a lot of the times I also initiated the first date. And the funny thing is, it took me some time to get to that place and that level of comfortability. I do remember when I first got on the apps, I was too afraid to swipe on people to show my interest because the man is supposed to be the pursuer. I remember I was too afraid to talk about let's meet in person. I would let conversations drag on for weeks at a time, telling myself I have to get comfortable before I meet this stranger. And nothing is wrong with that. I did what felt most comfortable at the beginning of my online dating experience. But once I got more comfortable, once I got more confident in using the apps, I started being the initiator, swiping on profiles that seemed interesting to me, starting conversations, asking for the first phone call, because the whole purpose of the app is for us to connect. It's important to go into the dating apps with an open mind. Swipe generously and often, because like I said, this is a numbers game. And a swipe isn't a marriage proposal. It's just you initiating a conversation. That is actually a phrase I had to repeat to myself over and over. It's not a marriage proposal, it's just a conversation. Like, just swipe. And I also had to remind myself that I might swipe and I might not get a swipe back. That even if I did get a swipe back, we might not have a conversation. That even if we started a conversation, it might not last. That if the conversation is going on, it might never turn into a meeting. Like, definitely just proceed with no to low expectations and don't take any of it personally. Whatever is happening or not happening has nothing to do with you. And I think that was one of the major things I had to learn about being on the apps. None of it has nothing to do with me. Being on the apps is rough, and it can be rough. And I definitely had my own little mantras that to help psych me up and to remind me of why I'm doing this. So when you're on the apps, please remember that it only takes one person. It takes one person for you to connect with and to make this whole experience worth it. Yes, it can seem like the dating pool sucks sometimes, that every single person you meet is not for you, but it only takes one person and you haven't met everyone yet. If there's something going on with your apps where you feel like you're getting stuck or it's not working, conversations always die, or you never get matches, figure out what you can change and change it. And my sponsor, BetterHelp, will connect you with a therapist who can help you to tackle some of these bad habits, to break them, to implement new ones, and to figure out the patterns and the mindset that's holding you back. Relationships and dating is not easy. Figuring out your bad habits is not easy. One of the main things I feel like my dating experience has taught me is that you are responsible for breaking the habits that are holding you back. Click the link in my description, fill out the questionnaire to be matched with a therapist in as little as a couple days. BetterHelp makes sure that the therapists on their platform are qualified, and their customer support team is here to help you if you have any questions. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform that you can trust. So click the link in my description or go to betterhelp.com/Ashleysayque for a 10% discount off of your first month. Remember that your dating profile is a conversation starter. It's not a job application for your future partner. I made a video with some friends talking about what we put on our dating apps and what we like to see versus what we don't like to see. And so I'd recommend you checking that out if you're interested. But just try to remember that with your profile, you're trying to just get a conversation going. You want to say things that people can respond to, that will spark interest, make them laugh, spark curiosity, or even just demonstrate who you are, what you're about, and what you like, so that you can attract the type of person that you're interested in and make it easy for them to start a conversation with you. Remember, dating apps are only there to connect you with people. Do not try to stay and hold conversations on the apps. I had to learn this the hard way, but dragging conversations out, trying to talk to someone on the apps for weeks and weeks and weeks, it's horrible. It doesn't result in going on dates. It doesn't even result in you feeling like you actually know that person. I connect with people on the apps. We might exchange a few words and then I'm asking to have a phone call. I like having phone calls or FaceTime because it's an easy way to really feel their vibe, to really get their aura. You know, if you're texting someone, they have time to think, to come up with witty responses. Sometimes people are bad texters, they get distracted. But if you ask them for a phone call, or even better yet, a FaceTime, you're getting the real person live and in front of you. And you get to save yourself a night of getting dressed up and going to meet them and giving them your Saturday. I was a big fan of having a phone call or a FaceTime before my first date. And that is when I felt like I got to know the person. And the phone call was my vetting process. If I had a phone call or a FaceTime and it was like pulling teeth or was horrible to talk to you, or you know, the vibe was off, then I would not go on the date. Because dating apps can be so tedious and it can be hard to stay on them, I made sure to protect my emotional peace and to make the app a pleasant experience. So that meant not entertaining people who were boring to talk to, not entertaining people when it felt like pulling teeth. That meant keeping my notifications turned off. I get overwhelmed when I get a lot of notifications. I do not like feeling like people are demanding of my time. I have my notifications turned off for everything, for social media, for Instagram, for WhatsApp. I don't have any notifications turned on, and I never have my notifications turned on for the app. I literally only opened it when I was in the mood to converse, and I didn't let anyone pressure me to talk if I didn't feel like talking. And if I ever got that vibe from someone, if they seemed passive aggressive because I wasn't responding quick enough, or they wanted more of my time than I was willing to give, I was quick to assert my boundary and also quick to be like, you know what, maybe we aren't a match because we have different communication requirements. I wasn't going to let someone pressure me into communicating more often than I felt comfortable. And this is what I mean with just protecting your experience, your emotional space, and trying to make the apps a fun place to be. If I'm having a conversation with someone and it's like pulling teeth, unmatched. I'm not gonna sit here and complain and say, oh my God, it's taking him forever to reply. No, I'm just unmatching. You're boring to talk to. You're ruining my app experience. It's taking you too long to reply, or maybe you're replying too much. Like how I was on the apps, 100% just depended on my mood and energy. I'm a firm believer in what's meant for you will be for you. So I didn't stress myself out if I unmatched with someone or they unmatched with me, or it just didn't seem to be a vibe at that particular time. Because guess what? More than likely, if you're on the apps, you guys will end up messaging again. And if it's meant to be, it's gonna be. Protecting my peace was of the utmost importance, and in just trying to make the dating apps a pleasant experience, especially since I knew this was the only way I'm really meeting people. So I was quick to unmatch, to block, stop conversations if they were no longer serving me or they made the app an unpleasant place to be. I think one of the main things with the dating apps and just dating in general is you have to learn to stop putting pressure on yourself. Date just to date, have conversations just to have conversations. Like stop putting so much pressure on this one conversation, on this one person, on this one date. Most of them and most people will amount to nothing. So keep it light and keep it moving. Being on the dating apps, just like dating people in real life, is a muscle. The more you do it, the easier it gets. It gets easier to take rejection. It gets easier to give out rejection. It gets easier when people ghost or they leave or they block you or you have to block or ghost them. It all gets so much easier the more and more you do it. And I think it's just important to remember that some people are just a part of the journey. They're a lesson to be learned. Not every single person is going to be a great love, a great connection, or your forever. Take it with the grain of salt, try to have fun, and just try to continue to connect and meet people, because that is what the apps are for. Okay, this one is probably the most important one, but know your deal breakers. Know your deal breakers, know your needs, and be ruthless with them. Remember that because this is a numbers game, every no gets you closer to your yes. Every time you end a conversation, every time a guy ghosts you or breadcrumbs you, it's like good riddance, thank you, on to the next one, because every single no gets you closer to your yes. This is a numbers game. So when it came to my deal breakers and knowing my needs and wants, which I talked about in another video, I was ruthless with it. I was dating, and if a deal breaker came up or it became apparent that if someone couldn't meet a need that I have, then I dropped them. Because I know there's someone out here who will tick off this box. And please let me remind you, deal breakers are different than just something you do not like. Deal breakers are things that negatively impact the relationship, impact you and your mental health. They go against your core values or things that you just can't accept. And for me, for instance, having different religious views was a deal breaker. Them being a partier, drinking, smoking, any of that stuff was a deal breaker. A man with kids, kind of a deal breaker. I mean, it actually was. I think I went on one date with a guy who had kids. But for me, it was a deal breaker. It wasn't something that I wanted for myself. I don't know. I found dating at this day and age and this time, most people have waited in this generation. You know, I remember dating, and as soon as I hit 30, my dad was like, oh, you're gonna have to accept men with kids, and oh, you're gonna have to accept men that have, you know, already been divorced, and all this stuff. And that just wasn't true, because my dating pool in my 30s was very different than like my dad's and that generation's at the time. So many people in our age bracket haven't been married, haven't had kids yet. They don't have that baggage. And so it wasn't something that I had to really ever accept. There was plenty of men out here who were just like me without all of that baggage. And so it was a deal breaker for me. I dropped men as soon as I saw that they had children. Sorry, not sorry. The point is, just remember to nix people out quickly when they don't align with what you want, with what you need, or your deal breakers. There's no need to settle. There's a difference between settling and being realistic, and you have to figure out what that means and looks like for you. Okay, one last little tip I'd like to give when it comes to dating apps is learn what you love to talk about. Or better yet, know what you love learning about another person. I am very curious just by nature. I ask a lot of questions, and my dating experience, I've had so many men say that I ask a lot of questions, but that's because I knew the things I wanted to know about the person. Things that were fun to talk about, but that gave me a lot of information to know whether or not this is someone I want to be spending my time with. Some of y'all might feel some type of way about this, but I love talking to new people about their views on love. Like within the first conversation, I'm asking, have you ever been in love? Oh, really? How many times? Oh, can you tell me about those times? And they're giving me their stories about their exes. You know, I ask about cute questions like their first kiss, their first relationships, their last relationship, and it just creates such a rich and fulfilling conversation. This line of questioning is exciting for me. I love talking about it, but also it helps me to vet the other person. I get to learn their views on love and relationships. If they've never been in love by the time they're my age, kind of a bit of a flag. If they've never maintained a serious relationship, also kind of a bit of a flag, but it's a starting point for me to dig deeper to figure out why. Do they believe in love? Do they value marriage? You know, how they move in relationships, what they say about their past partners or their past love experiences. Like, all of this information was not only fun to talk about, and it helped me to gauge whether I'm dating someone who is emotionally mature, who is open, and who's emotionally available, who doesn't mind getting a little vulnerable, but it also got to show me if I'm dating someone who has a similar outlook on love as me. And that was something that was important to me. Dating someone who believes in love, in the power of love, who believes it's worth fighting for, who values monogamy. You know, there's just so much. There's so much information you get from this line of questioning. And I don't know, it was something I always had so much fun talking to my dates about. And of course, I would come across some men who didn't really want to talk about that, who got a bit more buttoned up. And those men usually weren't for me, because I'm an open and honest person, and I enjoy dating other people who lead with openness and lead with honesty, who are confident in themselves and self-assured enough to tell me their stories, to tell me when they were hurt, how they overcame it, to tell me what they learned about their past experiences. Like, anytime I dated a man who was super buttoned up and reserved about this topic, it was a sign that they just might not be for me. Now, of course, I'm not saying people need to be, you know, trauma dumping and crying on my shoulder and telling me every secret of their life when we have this conversation. But there's a way people can navigate this topic of love or past relationships and stuff without going too deep, you know? But the whole point is just find something that you enjoy learning about the other person, a conversation, a topic that lights you up and that helps to make the getting to know you process fun. And I'm going to be ending this video here. Just one last thing I want to say. No matter how hard dating gets, no matter how sucky the apps are, you'll figure out a way to make it work for you and to make it fun if it matters. And if getting into a relationship, finding love, if those things matter to you. And they did for me. This is why I gritted my teeth, stuck it out, kept going back to the apps, and just figured out a way to make it fun for me. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope it kind of helped. If you have your own tips and tricks or what you do on the dating apps or rules and whatnot, please put it in the comment down below. And yeah, I think this is it for this round of relationship type videos. I'll see you in a few days with some Thailand vlogs as we're moving into this apartment. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. Deuces.